Accessing peace. Existing without violence, with the ability to calmly resolve conflict. Downloading love. An overwhelming, deep, positive affection towards others. Activating liberty. Living your life as you see fit without infringing on the lives of others.
Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism, the friendliest anarchist you will ever meet. And you know what day today is? Well, that is assuming if you're listening to it the day that it comes out, then it's Friday. If you're listening to it another day, then, well, it's not Friday anymore, is it? No, but it is when I'm recording this. So right now, it is Friday, which means it's the day that I answer your questions. And unfortunately, I have no questions to answer. There was an email that I got that I'm not sure if it was meant to be an Ask Me Anything, where it started off, it said why, and then there was, a bunch of info about asset forfeiture and police abuse, police misconduct, but there wasn't really an actual question in there. So no questions, which means that I basically get to do whatever I want, which it's my show anyway, so I kind of already get to do whatever I want. But, I kind of set a format, right? And normally I would be answering questions, but again, since there are none to answer, I'm just going to talk about what I want to talk about. And, I was having a conversation with somebody a couple of days ago, might have been a week and a half, a while, but not too terribly long ago, but, not yesterday either. And this person is aware that I'm a wrestling fan. And he said, I'm surprised that you don't do a wrestling podcast. And, it's kind of funny because I had thought about possibly starting one. One, I don't know what I would call it. And two, I don't really know when I would necessarily fit it into my schedule. It's not that, I could not make time. I certainly could. But as you know, or possibly know, I like to make sure that I do. If I say I'm doing something on Monday, I do it on Mondays. If I say I'm doing something on Tuesdays, I do it on Tuesdays, et cetera, et cetera. And, well, there's no guarantee that I would be able to do something on a Tuesday or a Wednesday consistently because I also, when the New Hampshire legislature is in session, I'm a lobbyist. Well, I'm a lobbyist even when they're not, but, the busy time of year for being a lobbyist is when they're in session from January to basically, like mid-May is when hearings wind up ending. So, I may or may not be able to do something on a Tuesday or Wednesday when they're not in session, but, it would not be consistent. So, I'm not planning to start something. But it got me thinking of how about occasionally in the Peace, Love, Liberty radios, possibly on Fridays before WWE pay-per-views, maybe throw in some wrestling talk. Now, I can't call it Wrestle Talk because that's already a thing. Yes, I know. It seems, obvious. Wrestle Talk, that's a good name. But, yep, it's a thing. So, again, don't know what I would call it if I did. But since there's a pay-per-view coming up this Sunday, and because, I'm a wrestling fan and I've got none of your questions to answer on the Ask Me Anything, I'm going to do something that I've never done before on this show. And I'm going to make it interesting. There are 9 matches that have been announced for the Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view. Yes, I know that's a horrible name for a pay-per-view, but nonetheless, there are 9 announced matches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my predictions, And to make sure that, you're kind of interested a little bit, I'm going to sweeten the deal a little bit. Not that you, per se, get anything out of it, but I will, for each one of the matches that I predict incorrectly, I will wind up donating $1 to the Free Ross Defense Fund. Which means that, and I know it's not a lot, but could wind up, after this pay-per-view, donating $9. And if I get all 9 wrong, I'll just make it an even $10 to the Free Ross campaign. And, there's pay-per-views basically every 2 weeks. So, I might start doing this more often. And it's basically a fun little way to where I get to talk about wrestling, and the Raw Celebrate campaign gets a little bit of money when I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Sound fun? All right, good. Let's start with the pre-show. And I know, it sounds weird that there's a pay-per-view and then there's a pre-show, but what they do with the pre-show is they'll have, a panel sit around discussing the upcoming matches, and then there's a match. And this is always during the half hour leading up to the actual show, when people are, filtering into the arena. Let's have something going on to sort of incentivize people to show up early. Hey, show up early, you can watch the pre-show match. And they'll also stream this pre-show for free on the WWE Network to entice people to, hey, just a reminder, you can subscribe to the network and watch the entire pay-per-view. So they put this out for free for people to watch. And again, it's basically a really long commercial. But anyway, the match on the pre-show is the Cruiserweight Championship match featuring the champion Neville versus Akira Tozawa with Titus O'Neil and company in his corner. Titus O'Neil being, and he's actually a really great guy outside of the wrestling business. He does this thing to where occasionally he'll just go find a bunch of homeless people and take them to a really nice restaurant and buy them dinner. So, Titus O'Neil has brought in, he's becoming a manager in wrestling. I'll delve into this match just a little bit, and the rest of the Great Balls of Fire card here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
It is the year 91,001 BCE. Witness humanity's origins in Hyperchronius, a classic role-playing game for Windows PCs with a story like no other game before. A liberty-oriented experience that is not to be missed. Go to zog.ninja to get your copy of Hyperchronius today. Use the code FPP to get $1 off. Hyperchronius, zog.ninja, code FPP.
You can support FPP Radio by joining the Fans program. Fans are friends, allies, and numerary supporters. Fans help FPP afford to produce more original content. You can join the Fans program for as little as $3 per month through Patreon and get perks like ad-free versions of FPP Radio News and Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com. That's fans.fppradio.com.
Hi, I'm Nick Hazelton from the Anarcho-Yakitalism podcast, and you're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism, the friendliest anarchist you will ever meet, and we're talking wrestling. Why? Well, because it's the Ask Me Anything, and, well, I have asked myself to go over the Great Balls of Fire card for the WWE pay-per-view, and I started by explaining why I'm doing this, and getting into this first match. First match, again, Cruiserweight Championship match, featuring champion Neville versus Akira Tozawa in his corner is Titus O'Neil and probably Apollo Crews. The three make up the so-called Titus brand, where Titus O'Neil he seems to be transitioning from an in-ring performer to sort of more of a managerial role, and I think that's actually a really good role for him. Not that he wasn't a good wrestler, but the fans just did not really connect to him. But he makes a really good bad guy manager to where you really love to hate this guy. So what do I think is going to happen in this match? I think Neville retains the championship. I don't think it's clean, meaning that it's just a straight up Neville defeats Tozawa. I do think that Titus will wind up getting involved in the match, and I think that will cost Tozawa the match. And the fact that it's on the pre-show, there's not really a lot of times when championships change hands on the pre-show. Now, it could be that, again, they put out the pre-show for free to entice people to watch. So if they wanted to sort of, really incentivize, hey, make sure you subscribe to the network and watch the rest of this, have a championship change hands on the pre-show, and then, oh, wait, they just changed the championship. Maybe something else really exciting will happen. But I don't think they will do that. And the rest of the card, I'm looking at the Wikipedia list for how they show the matches here. And I'm actually going to go in reverse order, where they have the Universal Championship match listed number 2. That's not going to be the second match of the night. That will not be the first match of the card. It might be. I seriously doubt it. I think they would probably do best to start the actual show either with the Intercontinental Championship match or the tag team match that's a 30-minute Iron Man match. So I'm going to start with that match, the 30-minute Iron Man match. Again, for the tag team championships, I don't think there has ever been an Iron Man match for the tag team championships. And if you're not sure what an Iron Man match is, it's a match to where there is a time limit, obviously, 30 minutes, but during that amount of time, the team with the most pinfalls or submission victories during that time winds up winning. So, each team could wind up, quote-unquote, losing multiple times. Now, Iron Man matches are kind of hit or miss. Sometimes they're kind of slow and boring. Other times they're really fast-hitting and, like just action-packed. And I definitely see this one being more along that action-packed sort of thing, especially with the Hardy Boys, Matt and Jeff. If you paid attention to wrestling in the late 90s, you remember the Hardy Boys probably. Yep, it's the same two guys. I want the Hardy Boys to wind up winning, but again, because this is an Iron Man match, you could wind up letting the Hardy Boys look really strong, but still wind up losing the match. But, pick up a couple of pinfalls, maybe a submission. I doubt there will be a submission on behalf of the Hardy Boys. I think Sheamus or Cesaro might make one of the Hardy Boys tap, but I do see Sheamus and Cesaro retaining the tag team championships. Again, I want the Hardy Boys to win, but I think WWE has a bigger picture in mind here, and the Hardy Boys will wind up losing the Iron Man match. Next, let's look at The Miz versus Dean Ambrose for the Intercontinental Championship. The Miz, of course, being accompanied by the Miztourage, Bo Dallas, Curtis Axel, and his lovely Canadian wife, Maurice. I think there's going to be some interference, and I think Dean Ambrose wins the match, but The Miz retains. Now, how do you retain the championship by losing the match? Well, if there's a disqualification, then championships don't change hands on disqualification. So I do see there being some interference here. Ambrose either wins by disqualification, which then allows him to wind up getting a rematch, hopefully, at the next pay-per-view, or The Miz wins and it's not a quote-unquote clean victory, and then Dean Ambrose moves on to something else. But I even though we've seen this match a dozen times, I kind of like this feud, and I want it to continue. So I predict a Dean Ambrose victory, but a Miz retention of the title. Next we have Big Cass. He's 7 foot tall, and you can't teach that. Versus the Certified G, Enzo Amore. And, I'm really not sure where this is going. Enzo is definitely the more over wrestler, or at least the more over entertainer. Cass probably the better wrestler, and I'm using air quotes around that. I think Big Cass wins, but I would love to see Enzo win, just because he is more over, but I think Big Cass will pull out the victory. We've got 4 more matches to look at, and we'll go through those here in moments here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
You can support FPP Radio by joining the Fans program. Fans are friends, allies, and numerous supporters. Fans help FPP afford to produce more original content. You can join the Fans program for as little as $1 per month through Patreon and get perks like ad-free versions of FPP Radio News and Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com. That's fans.fppradio.com.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up in any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com. That's getcell411.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
Hey, welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. Before I continue with the predictions for Great Balls of Fire, I want to make sure that I tell you about something that is, well, kind of the opposite of being on fire. It's actually very, very hard and cold, but in the best way. I'm talking about precious metals, gold and silver, and where you can get your hands on some of those cold, hard, precious metals. Talking about Roberts and Roberts Brokerage. For 40 years, since 1977, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760. That's 800-874-9760, or visit them online at rrbi.co. That's rrbi.co. Continuing on with the predictions for Great Balls of Fire, which, again, absolutely horrible name for a pay-per-view. But I guess all of the good names were taken. Next match on the list, not sure if this is going to be the order of the matches during the pay-per-view. But the next match on the list, Seth Rollins versus Bray Wyatt. This is probably the bathroom break match. Not that, the two guys are bad performers, but it's the match where there's not much storyline here. There's no real reason for me to care about this match. Bray Wyatt winds up speaking in, he's supposed to be this weird, mystical sort of cult leader sort of thing, but when he talks, it basically sounds like somebody's reading off their brain wallet, and I don't care. I don't care about Bray Wyatt. I don't care about his character. He, talks a lot, he gets pushed, and he winds up losing. And then he talks a lot, and he gets a push, and then he winds up losing. And Seth Rollins was a bad guy, and then he got hurt, and he came back, and now he's a good guy. But nobody really cares. And he just, feuds with people now because why not? Seth Rollins picks up the victory. Again, not that exciting of a match, but I do think that Rollins will pick up the victory, and I think it'll be clean. And hopefully the Seth Rollins victory means that he can move on to a better feud with somebody else. The next match, and this is actually one that I'm really looking forward to, the Raw Women's Championship, and that's to differentiate between the SmackDown Women's Championship, because WWE has two shows. There's WWE Raw that airs on Monday nights, WWE SmackDown that airs on Tuesdays. The Monday night show, the Raw Women's Championship, being defended at this pay-per-view. 5 Feet of Fury, Alexa Bliss, versus the Boss, Sasha Banks. I want Banks to win. I really do. But Bliss is such an amazing performer, and I think that they're going to keep the belt on Bliss a little while longer. And, I think after this match, even though Bliss is, what they call a heel, she's, a bad guy, and right now Sasha is a good guy. I think Sasha Banks is a better performer when she is in that heel role. So I do think that Bliss retains, and then after the match you see a Sasha Banks heel turn. So that is my prediction for that match. Next on the list, an ambulance match. And this is one of those stipulations to where, like the Iron Man matches, kind of hit or miss. Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns. And Reigns, kind of like Bray Wyatt, he keeps getting this push from WWE corporate. And Reigns is not a bad performer. He really isn't. But I think the reason he gets a lot of heat is just because he does get kind of this push, and he's kind of being, crammed down the throats of the audience. I think Strowman winds up winning this and going on to face the winner of Brock Lesnar versus Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe being the real Samoan. If you're not familiar with the reference there, Roman Reigns, also Samoan, but they don't really promote him as being a Samoan. They just promote him as being like a big, huge guy. So Braun Strowman wins, goes on at the next pay-per-view, my prediction, to face the winner of Brock Lesnar versus Samoa Joe. Oh, wait, no, Strowman can't face the winner at the next pay-per-view because Roman Reigns has already declared his intention to do so. Which means I might need to change my prediction on that Reigns-Strowman match. There's more station.
Why do they hate us? Is libertarianism compatible with Islam? Davi Barker answers these questions and more in Voluntary Islam and Other Essays. He advances the voluntarist cause with analysis of the confluence of values between Islam and libertarianism, as well as contemporary movements from the Tea Party to the Arab Spring. Voluntary Islam by Davi Barker is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates, like Namecheap, Spendabit, and Amazon at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. Or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. That's shop.fppradio.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry. Online at fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism, and I'm going over the WWE Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view, giving my predictions. And again, to make this somewhat interesting, for each match that I get wrong, meaning that my prediction is wrong, I will donate $1 to the Free Ross Legal Defense Fund. You can find out more about the Ross Ulbricht Defense Fund or donate at freeross.org. That's freeross.org, and the link will be in the show notes, as will my predictions. So, final match. And I said that I might need to change my prediction on that Reigns-Strowman match. I still think Braun Strowman wins the ambulance match. Reigns will look, kind of strong. I don't think there will be outside interference in that match. Which leads us to the final match, the main event, Brock Lesnar versus Samoa Joe for that Universal Championship. And I do think that Brock Lesnar winds up retaining, even though leading up to this match, Samoa Joe has looked really, really strong. I think, and there's speculation that WWE is going to keep the strap on Lesnar at least until SummerSlam, which is coming up in a month, 2 months. I forget exactly when it is, but sometime before the end of summer. And speculation is Lesnar will then drop the belt to Reigns at SummerSlam. It would not surprise me if you see Baron Corbin, who is on SmackDown, not Raw, but he does have that Money in the Bank briefcase. Would not surprise me if you do see Baron Corbin jump over to Raw, cash in that Money in the Bank briefcase after the Joe Lesnar match, or possibly daring to make it a triple threat match. I'm not predicting that's going to happen. I'm just saying I would not be surprised if it does. And I think it would be very, very exciting because we've not seen a cash-in on the opposite show since the Rated R Superstar. Edge did that about, a decade ago, I believe. Prediction, Lesnar retains at Great Balls of Fire. And again, for every match that I am wrong, $1 gets donated to the Ross Ulbricht Defense Fund, freeross.org. Don't forget, every Friday I answer your questions. Send those over, ama.fppradio.com.
The podcasts of FPP Radio are licensed under Copy Heart. We believe that copying is a form of flattery and do not abide by the copyright laws. Those laws serve to restrict the flow of ideas which no one can really own. Copying is an act of love. Love is not subject to law. If you enjoy the show, consider joining the Fans program and get perks like ad-free versions of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio and FPP Radio News, and also get a copy of the monthly newspaper FPP News. To learn more or to join the Fans Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com.